with us tonight, we have an amazing guest speaker. He's going to speak about cybersecurity, the current trends, what he's doing in the cybersecurity field. And he's a professional, especially in the offensive security side. So I'm really looking forward to learning a lot. And I'm sure some of us amongst the attendees, maybe you've known him and maybe he's a mentor to you. So you can seize the opportunity to ask him questions. We're going to have a Q&A session as we head to an end of the session. So you can feel free to leave your questions also on the chat. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce him. He's Michael Ikua, and he's a co-founder in BSides Nairobi. I'll leave him to introduce himself better. So yeah, Mike Ikua, you can take the stage now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lilian. I'd like to do a mic check. So if my audio is good, just thumbs up. If there's anyone who can't hear me clearly, can let me know. Okay, awesome. So let's begin. I hope my screen is visible. I'm sharing. Yeah, looks like it's working. Okay, so let's start with the agenda. So what I'm looking to cover today is some introduction about myself. I'll go over what is a CTF, why should we be playing a CTF. I'll do a bit of overview of the types of CTFs that exist, just for those who haven't played them in the past, some categories, and also some relevance to the career. There's a background noise. Someone is noisy. Okay. I think he's gone. So someone hand is up. Maybe you can drop what you need to say on chat. Okay, so before I go on, I'd like to ask anyone who has played CTF in the past, you can just raise your hand. If you've played CTF in the past, currently playing, you understand what a CTF is. Okay, see quite a number, just a handful, I guess. So looks like a variety of us probably are new to the concept. So I'll try as much as possible to explain things. Okay, thank you. So introduction, who am I? My name is Michael Ikua. I consider myself a cybersecurity professional. I am a penetration tester and a CTF player. Occasionally, I blog under my blog. My current professional position is I work in audit. So my role is in cybersecurity audit at a financial institution here in Kenya. So you can look me up on LinkedIn. You'll see my role. So that's my high level. As Lilian said, I actually also helped co-found BSides Nairobi, which is a community, let's say, initiative, which we adopted from the global security BSides. So it's more or less a less formal kind of conference where we try to do more community-related events, whereby we are not looking for suits, we are not doing any sort of red tape kind of thing. It's just enthusiasts and professionals coming together to share their knowledge on cybersecurity and discuss a variety of topics. So that's what we try to achieve with BSides Nairobi. This year would be our third, I don't say edition, third edition. We've had, we started in 2022, we got another one in 2023, and we've had quite a good success with a lot of community support. We managed to have certain students attend for free, which is a very good achievement on our end, because hosting these events are not cheap in some cases, because we have to sort out some logistics and lunch and so on. Yeah, so that's my introduction. If you want to get deeper into my CV, just go on to LinkedIn. Okay, someone is talking about my audio. Let's see if I can increase. I think that should be better. If it's not loud enough, maybe you can try to increase audio on your end. Ongeza volume kidogo hapa. I hope it's good. I'm just reading the chat. So yeah, I hope it sounds good. The person who is claiming for me to add the bit of volume, I hope iko sawa. Okay, let's progress. So yeah, in this case, if you know what a CTF is, I'm just doing some refresher stuff, and then we'll go into now some of the questions that guys have around this. So I captured the flag competition. This is a cybersecurity contest. So where you compete for points, you have to do some challenges, and you get some points at the end of getting the flag. Usually, depending on the competition, you're going to either get some, what do you call it, some prizes, or you're going to be in a leaderboard. So, and you will see how this manifests later on. So this, I think this concept was born out of the military, where when the military are doing their training, you have attackers versus defenders, and then they compete to capture the flag, basically in real life, where you have your guns, and then you go and try to go into enemy territory and you capture their flag. So if you manage to overpower them, you get the flag. I think this is where this concept was born, and you'll see a lot of cybersecurity terminologies are also coming from the military. So why should you play a CTF? So if you want to get good at something, I use these two quotes. So train as you fight and fight as you train. So basically it means for you to gain the expertise, you have to actually practice. So you cannot just say that you know something, while when you're thrown into in the environment or in the field, you hear something, someone is talking. Okay. So go on. So I was saying the reason why we play CTFs specifically for cybersecurity is to gain that experience, for you to be able to go out and use that experience in the real world. That's why I'm saying you train as you fight, and also you fight as you train. So if you've never done any practice, when you go into the real world, you're not going to magically have these skills. So it doesn't work like that. You have to practice, you have to train so that you can apply the same things you've been doing in the real world. So there's no, let's say, magic portion whereby you have the thing you're doing in training will be completely different from what you're doing in the real world. So if you're doing shit training, then you'll also be shit at what you do in the real world. So that's why using this as a concept for training is very beneficial, because you cannot do theoretical CTF. CTF are typically hands-on. Of course, some of them, I'm sure I've seen some that are not very hands-on, but generally you'll find a majority of CTFs that you encounter will force you to do some hands-on stuff, and they will give you some practical knowledge. So if you want to remember anything about why you need to play a CTF, train as you fight, fight as you train. The only way you can build your fighting skills, or let's say real world skills, is the way you practice. So if you practice poorly, you'll also have a poor outcome in the real world. Okay. So specifically to CTFs and our relevancy of the topic. Okay, Lilian, I don't know if you are able to block guys who are unmuted. They keep getting background noise. Unless it's my mic who is, it's having an echo. Okay. So number one, CTF will help you practice on your cybersecurity skills. I don't think there's any area of cybersecurity that you lack some skills when you do CTFs. I think maybe only the theoretical ones, like maybe governance. I don't think I've seen a governance CTF in the past, though we've actually ever tried to do something of the sort with BSides Nairobi at some point. But I think that's probably the only area, and also management. So when you're thinking of CTF, think technical skills. So other skills like managerial skills, probably you may not get them on CTFs, but those are things you can potentially learn on the job or something. The next thing is getting exposed to new areas of interest in cybersecurity, because usually if you follow the conventional path of going to school, potentially there are some areas of cybersecurity you may not realize you actually enjoy doing, because you're being forced to follow a set, let's say, schedule or a set curriculum. But if you go seeking for CTFs, there's a lot of various categories, a lot of interesting sort of areas you can venture into that you may not have initially thought about. The other thing is for fun. So depending on what you like doing for fun, sometimes if you're a problem solver, you like puzzles, then certain CTFs will provide a fun puzzle for you to solve, something not too difficult, something interesting to just have some fun with your mind, where you can crack some puzzles. The next, number 4, is you can actually turn this into some sort of prizes and giveaways winning strategy. So if you, let's say you like free stuff like some t-shirts, or you like some swag, or you don't want to maybe put your money on everything you desire, so you can go this route, play some CTFs. In some cases you can even land some good gadgets, maybe laptops, things like hacker gear, for example, like Wi-Fi pineapples and all. Depends on the CTF, but there's a good amount of them that in the past have been giving prizes, even money prizes at that. So if you've already checked off the first 3, you can land here and be like, oh, I want to make this something that will give me some good returns. I want some money. The next one is networking. So when you're playing a CTF, you join the forum, you join the WhatsApp groups. There's a lot of people you will interact with, people who have different interests, different skill sets. So that's a very good benefit. And number 6 is what is now the reason for this talk, adding that experience to your CV or resume, so that you can get started into, let's say, getting into the career and getting some jobs. Okay, types of CTF competitions. Let's see if there's anyone who has a burning question on the chat. Okay, we'll have a Q&A session, so don't see anything burning at the moment. So let's continue. I think we're doing good on time. So the first kind of category is Jeopardy. We have boot to root, attack and defend, war games, cyber games. I don't know if there's any new ones that have come up, but this is the ones that I know of. Let's get into it. So Jeopardy. So this is the most common type, where you'll have a CTF competition. This you'll find it running maybe for like 2-3 hours. I mean 2-3 days. So from 24 hours to 48 hours, maybe on a Friday and Saturday, or Friday to Sunday. And then you have very many categories, so various categories of the challenges, and then you have to capture points, and then you'll have a winning sort of leaderboard. And you'll see this mainly revolves around conferences, events, meetups, like what I mentioned, BSides Nairobi. Even I think even Cyber Kimathi have done a few CTFs. So those are Jeopardy style. So you go in, you find all the various categories. Each challenge has a certain number of points you have to achieve when you complete. And also there's no like sequence. So you pick any you want. You can start from the hard one, you can start from the easy one. It's up to you. And also it's more or less usually team-based. So you compete as a team. If you want to experience this type of CTF events, 90% go on CTF time. I'm sure even today, potentially we'll find a CTF running. The next one is Hack the Box, which I think these ones I would say I've seen them to be seasonal, but they're actually quite decent. ctf.hackthebox.com. Another one is Cyber Ranges. From time to time, they've had events in the past. I've not seen any this year. Hopefully, they'll have one, and also CTF Room. Even CTF Room hosts CTFs. I think they had an InterVarsity CTF sometime this year, which I believe some of our colleagues here in Kimathi have attended. So that's it for Jeopardy. The next one is Boot to Root. So this one is focused on pen testing type skills. So where you're given like a standalone machine, which is like a VM, and then you have to attack it from external, gain access, and then escalate your privileges to root or admin if it's another Windows machine. So this one is more focused on like operating system, network type pen testing stuff. And you might find in a Jeopardy, you might find within Jeopardy, one category could be a boot to root. So that also happens. Here you have Hack the Box machines. So if you've played Hack the Box, there's those individual machines. You have an IP address and you go at it. Van Hub, which hasn't been updated in a while, I think because Offensive Security bought it out. So they are trying to use that concept in your commercial option. We have Try Hack Me rooms. Good number of them are this type. You just have an IP and try to break into it until you get the highest privileges. We have Offensive Security Proving Grounds. So if you're doing things like OSCP certifications, this one will come in handy, and a variety of others. So there's many others which I've not listed here. I'm sure you've seen things like, I think, what's it called? Something root.eu or something. There's one similar to that. And many other platforms are coming up as well under this space. Okay. Another one is attack and defend. So this one is more, let's say, resource intensive, where you have let's say, a team, and you have infrastructure. For example, maybe we have a simulation of a company infrastructure, and every team has its own. So, and then we within the team, we have defenders and attackers, and then we try to simultaneously attack other teams' infrastructure and also defend our own. So that means when you're given the infrastructure, you have to go through your own infrastructure to identify weak points, and as well as attack other teams' infrastructure. So this one is a more fun, collaborative type of event. I think you'll see this one in big conferences like DEF CON. They have a attack and defend type of CTF. And I think it's quite stimulating, this one, because a lot of things are happening at the same time. You're attacking, you're defending, you're hardening your infrastructure and all that. So a variety of skills come into play. So platforms, we have Hack the Box. So here they call them battlegrounds. Just join into battlegrounds and then you can do this kind of thing. You get maybe random other team members to do, or you can be also alone and you're doing both. Try Hack Me King of the Hill. I don't know if this one still exists. I haven't been on Try Hack Me in a minute. But if it does this kind of CTF, and then some CTF events will have attack and defend. The next one is a war game. So this one is where you have progressive challenges. So for you to move to the next one, you have to unlock the next challenge. So you play challenge 1. If you're stuck on challenge 1, then you can't progress. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and potentially the difficulty also increases. So you progress. So the solution for challenge 1 will give you the key to the next one, and so on. Some platforms here, we have over the wire or under the wire. So I think over the wire is one of the nice ones. It has a mix of Windows. It has Linux challenges, web application challenges. Under the wire, I think it's purely PowerShell, if I'm not wrong. Been also a while since I did these challenges. And then finally, cyber ranges type of CTF. So this one is where you have more realistic events. I mean, infrastructure and challenges. So this one is when you have like a whole, let's say, environment. So you have like a simulation of a company. You have all types of services. You have maybe email servers. You have web servers. You have endpoint stations. You have even network devices could be also within that. And then this one now gives you like a real world challenge. So if you're given a simulation of a company, where do you start? Do you start from the web apps? You start from network devices? You start from OSINT, even OSINT sometimes is included. Maybe some developer is leaking their credentials somewhere on open source environments. So this is a more realistic thing, has a lot of infrastructure, more interconnected systems where one systems could give you access to the next, not necessarily um, relying on, let's say, vulnerabilities. And this works for both defense and attack. So you're given also an environment. How do you defend it? And this is the best one that I think is more beneficial to your career. This one, cyber range type of CTFs. So Hack the Box Pro Labs, they do a very good job at this one. I don't know if they've done blue team ones yet, but this one is, if good thing for Hack the Box is you complete a lab, you get a certificate, so it's like a badge of honor, and it has proven skills attached. Try Hack Me
Oh,
Networks, I think.
okay. Michael, as we continue, there's someone who is asking if you can share the slides. So I don't know if we'll share the slides after the session or yeah. Okay. So we'll share the
I will.
slides. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No worries. Nothing secret here, so I'll share it. No problem at all. Mm. Okay. So try Hack Me. You have OffSec OCP labs or any other labs. So I think currently, if you're doing any certification, I think 90% of them will give you some sort of cyber range. If they don't, I think they are not doing a good job at delivering the certification, because I think all the certifications for me they've done cyber range. So if it is theoretical, then I don't recommend. So anything from the pen testing ones, you do them, you'll get a cyber range. You have 7 machines. You have to go through each, maybe connect to multiple networks. Same applies for blue teaming as well. You have interconnected networks and systems that you have to defend or do analysis on, and so on. So yeah, this, if you want to get the best one for your career, start here, and then maybe look at the others for fun and challenging yourself. Okay, so CTF categories, I mentioned in Jeopardy, you might find a variety of CTF categories. So in things like cyber ranges, also these categories will be included. You might be required to do web application security, then binary exploitation, then maybe digital forensics. There's a mix of things. I think I missed to put in network pen testing here, but that is under boot to root. I think I can include it even now, since this one's I'll edit the slides later. Yeah, so let's begin. So web application security. So this one's purely web applications, because if you look at the current technology landscape we are in, I think almost all interconnected systems have some sort of web application. All companies, when they're wanting to give you any sort of service, they are initially going to do web apps. We have also banks doing that as well. We have many others, social media, their web apps. So it's like 90% of what we interact on the internet, where our data sits, it's through a web app. Even this thing we are doing our webinar on is a web app. So that means web application security will definitely be a strong category in your, let's say, arsenal. That's why I put it as a number one. We have mobile, speaks to the same. They are quite related. It's just the interface through which you interact with these different services, and the architectures will be very similar. So in web apps, you do here you rely on your knowledge. So, for example, you have APIs, you have there is now the web application like stack. So you have the front end, you have middleware, you have backend. So knowledge of how those different components connect together to deliver your final web app will be very beneficial in terms of now your skills in web application security. We have mobile. I think this one could be a bit straightforward. It's your mobile app on your phone. Usually, the backend infrastructure is similar to web apps. I don't think there's a mobile application that doesn't have a backend that is similar to web app. So, unless it's an app that 100% sits on your phone, you'll find if it's collecting data, if it's doing authentication, the backend will have some similar logic to web apps. And also, same concept applies, learning how web apps are built, the concepts around that, and so on. This one we have digital forensics. So this one will tie into careers like blue teaming, incident response, etc. So for example, I'm sure guys like guys who go to law enforcement, they do a lot of digital forensics just to ensure that if you are doing any sort of let's say crime related investigation, you might encounter some forensics on the digital space. Next one is steganography. I think that this one is not very strong these days because of how we've changed in terms of our obfuscation. I think steganography is, I would consider it like a fun, interesting puzzle-like category. But in terms of career-wise, I haven't seen its relevance much. But it's also a good to know if you want to improve your CTF sort of skills. We have cryptography. This is more on encryption, those kind of things, standards. How do you ensure security from one end to another? Things like those. You have when you're dealing with also things like mobile apps, there's a lot of cryptography involved. Code signing, etc. That's under cryptography. We have, so when I say that, I mean in real life. So it's not like you're going to be doing code signing CTFs, but the kind of knowledge kind of helps you translate into real life applicability. The next one is reverse engineering. So this one is more, I would say, it depends. So if you are, let's say, someone who does vulnerability research, you might encounter doing some reverse engineering. So for example, Windows, I think a lot of people do reverse engineering on Windows services, the Windows binaries, because if there's no source code, then the only way to pick under the hood is do reverse engineering. And they go hand in hand with binary exploitation. Also, if you're doing malware analysis, reverse engineering also comes into play. If you want to know what the hackers are doing, maybe they are deploying ransomware, they're stealing credentials. How you unpack that is by reverse engineering. Then we have incident response and miscellaneous. So miscellaneous, probably a fun category. Things like OSINT. You're given a picture and you're told to find the location. I don't know, some real world instances could help. Maybe you're like also an investigator and you want to find someone who maybe is doing catfishing activities, phishing people, scamming people. OSINT can fall under that. Okay. Go to the next one. Career relevance. I think I've covered more or less most of them when I went through the categories. So application security engineer. So that's web application, mobile application security. Bug bounty hunter, the same. Pen tester. So I think this list is more or less self-explanatory. We can dive deep into during the Q&A, which is what we can start now. This is my last slide. Okay. So Lilian, I am okay for Q&A. So do I start with the list you shared, or we just have people speak or post on chat, which is easier?
Okay, we can start with the one on the document. Yes.
So I'll just be reading them out loud. Touch a screen yangu like that. So the first question I got here is, what specific skills learned in CTFs translate directly into the workplace, especially for entry-level positions? Okay, so that's a very good question. So let's think about it. So our objective is to get into the cybersecurity field. So we have to think about what types of jobs do we have in the cybersecurity field and what types of skills are needed. So I'll start with my specialty, which is offensive security. So primarily when you are doing offensive security, you are trying to be the good guy in bad ways. So for example, I'm trying to see what are the weak points in an organization. And also this is on various levels. So it could be from the network side, it could be on the web application side, because mainly an attack surface of a company is, number one, what they are exposing to the internet, of which 90% would be the web applications. So in that case, if you go deep into web application category CTF, then you're well placed to test web applications for companies. Because remember when you said fight as you train or train as you fight. So the same, let's say, knowledge you get. So if it's a get request, the same get request on CTF is the same one on the real world application. If it's a vulnerability like SQL injection, the same way you exploit it in a CTF, probably 50% of the time, the same way you'll do it in real world. Of course, now you have to take into consideration for a CTF to be enjoyable, they have to add some weaknesses of which you don't expect the intentional addition of weaknesses into real world systems. So that's where sometimes the difference comes in. So in real world systems, you have to, let's say, be a bit more intense in terms of how you approach it versus for CTFs, because in the CTF, there's already a vulnerability, there's something. The question is what is it? But in real world, it's open game. You don't know what you'll find. Maybe it's an SQL injection, maybe it's a file upload issue, maybe it's exposed credentials, you don't know. But at least in CTFs, usually you can know the path that you are required to take. So I'll say in terms of specific skills, so if you're looking for offensive security positions, then you have your web application pen testing skills. That's one. So knowledge of, I don't think I've referenced OWASP in a long time, but OWASP top 10. So your knowledge of HTTP protocol, because web applications are running on HTTP. So if you have that HTTP knowledge, then you are going to have that, what we are saying, specific real world skills. Next one, it was very broad because we have so many things in this. So I hope I've also listed what I listed in my slides covers this. Hope whoever asked this is in the call to maybe say something or say something on chat. But I think that pretty much covers it. So specific skills, if you go to, let's say, think about blue team. So if you are told how do you defend against maybe brute force attack, for example. So in CTFs, you might be doing log analysis to discover brute force attacks. That's one thing. Another one is, okay, so then you have knowledge of how brute force attacks look like when you are logging. When I say logging, I mean collecting logs for the system, which I mean is the events that are occurring in the system are documented. So that's for blue team side. So those are the type of skills you expect. So that's question number 1. Let's go to number 2. How can I effectively showcase my CTF achievements in job interviews or on my resume? So an effective way for me, what I did is documentation. So if you just tell me you did a CTF and you participated, I think that's very little value for whoever is trying to understand your skills. So document it. So write down your solution, write down maybe your things you learned, stuff like that. That's the best way to show that achievement, because otherwise anyone can claim to do CTF, anyone can claim to have completed something. It's very easy. People these days bullshit a lot. So how do you prove yourself? You just document it. For me, I do blogs. That's easier. If you are into things like TikTok, I think these days all kind of documenting is welcome. So you can do maybe TikTok, YouTube. It's up to you, however you want to document it. But the best way is to show you actually did it and you understand why what you're doing was happening, because the interviewer will definitely ask you questions and poke into your theories. So why was this the case? And if you don't have an answer to the why, did you really understand the CTF? Did you really understand the problem? Because it's all about problem solving, which will translate into job. So did you understand the problem and why was it there in the first place, and what is the solution? Stuff like that. So my best recommendation is document, do walkthroughs, do if it's video, it's up to you. Just find a way to document. Which whatever you document, just put on your CV. Your blog link, if you want to post on LinkedIn, it's okay. You want to post on Twitter, it's up to you. Depends on the platform you prefer. Question 3, how cybersecurity affects IoT. I think the word affects here is a bit odd, because I don't think cybersecurity affects anything. What we say is cybersecurity enhances the capabilities of technology, because we usually trust technology based on how you've done your cybersecurity. So if you cannot have quick adoption if people don't have the trust in your technology. So that's how I would say cybersecurity is involved in IoT. So if you have, let's say, smart devices in your house, if those smart devices have weaknesses, someone can easily log in from another part of the world. I mean, you're going to be skeptical about going forward with that kind of technology, because it's just an advancement in technology where we have everything interconnected. They collect a lot of data, those IoT devices. Even our phones these days are like IoT devices, because they track you in every sort of thing. They are constantly broadcasting what you're doing. So if you don't have proper security there, then it affects it I would say, in a negative way. Yeah. Question 4, what are the best sites to learn CTF from scratch? Just when I share my slides, go through all those. Those ones are pretty good. And also, I think I've pretty much covered the best ones. The rest I can leave you up to Google to discover. Question 5, why the big gap in cybersecurity? By gap, I mean, why aren't people into cybersecurity? So, reason why people aren't into cybersecurity, it's hard. It's hard because there's a lot of knowledge required for you to secure something. So think about it this way. You are not. I like using the analogy of a house. So the best way for you to secure a house is to know how to build one. Because would you want someone who has never built houses to give you advice on how to build your house securely? I think it's doesn't make any sense. So that's why I think sometimes cybersecurity is hard. So you need the underlying knowledge. You need to know technology first so that you can progress to now the security part. What is the technology is now your fundamentals, your network connectivities, your operating systems, because everything has an operating system these days, your phone, your laptops, your computers, the servers that these services are running on, they're running on servers. So you need to know the tech. And that's where people fall behind, knowing that tech. So you need to keep learning, because tech, I think, sometimes move actually faster than the cybersecurity itself. So like now we are dealing with AI. So if you don't go deep into AI, you won't understand the cybersecurity around it. So that's why I think there's a gap, even though I think I would say the gap is on the mid to high level. Kuchini, guys who are looking for entry level positions, there are very many. But once you challenge them with that concept of, do you know this, do you know that, then the gap appears. Question 6, do you have any internship opportunities? On my end, no. I recommend just go through maybe the websites. I'm just trying to avoid plugging my employer here. So go on LinkedIn and go to their career portal. I think they do graduate trainees mainly. I don't think they consider them internships. But I think you can land an internship. So for me, I can't plug you any at the moment. Number 7, is there a field of cybersecurity that is not code related? There is. We have governance and compliance. So those are the people who create processes. So you can focus on things that are not code related, and you can still do a good job. For example, thinking security does not require technology. So that's just thinking, okay. It's like the same way people do security in like buildings. It's more or less thinking about the process. So how do you secure it? You say someone who comes into the door, they have to sign in, they have to verify their identity, which such concepts apply into the technology. We don't need to code. You just give like a blueprint or a policy saying we need to know who you are when you're coming to our system. So you see, this kind of knowledge does not need any code, and it doesn't need deep technical knowledge. Yeah. Number 8, how can I be a master in CTS? That's practice. Just practice. I don't think there's any other strategy. Let me pause from the document and go to chat. Let's see what we have. I'll answer what we have on chat. Okay. Just scrolling to see where the questions start.
Okay, I think I can assist you in checking out the questions. Yeah.
So,
Okay,
go ahead.
so we have one who is asking, are there specific sites that you recommend mostly for the CTF challenges?
I would say just what I have on the slides. That's a pretty good starting point. They give you the best sort of experience. So yeah, anything I've posted on the slides, I've listed, I think, around maybe 6 or 7 sites if you pick out the unique links. So that should give you a good starting point.
Okay. We have another one who is asking about the entry level roles or internships. I think we've covered it in the previous conversation, and they're also asking on the blogging sites that you recommend that they can use to create blogs.
So for blogs, there's many avenues. So you can do something free like Medium. Medium, just sign up and you can start writing. You have HackMD. If you want to go a bit technical, host your own blog, you just have to put some money into it because you have to pay for hosting and so on. So that's why things like HackMD and WordPress and what did I say? The first one, Medium, are easy for starting out. And then if you want to customize things, then you do your own customization, your own domain, your own website, your own hosting. So for example, for me, I do GitHub Pages. If you've not heard of GitHub Pages, you can just have a look into it. They give you free hosting. All you have to do is put a domain. So that's a good avenue. And then you use things like, is it Hugo and Jekyll? So for me, I use Hugo. It's pretty easy. It's very seamless for me. There's a lot of themes to use. Yeah, so you have a variety of options. I think there's also other platforms like, I don't know, Vercel. There's I think there are also other technical platforms like Hashnode where you can just write technical content. So yeah, I think those are around 5 options you have. There's free, there is one those that need a bit of heavy lifting. It's up to you which one is easier. But start with medium and then progress, because sometimes medium gets boring. You cannot customize the theme. So you're pretty much locked down to what they offer. But if you go into things like WordPress, then it's anything is your choice now. Everything is up to you. You can even add analytics and so on. So next one.
Okay, so we have Ian who is asking, as a seasoned cybersecurity professional, do you think compliance and governance would be a niche to venture into in Kenya?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is because a lot of companies, I think one benefit of GRC is the enforcement of regulation. So things like the Data Protection Act, those ones, they are forcing companies to do a bit of policy making around information security, how do you secure data, and so on. So that means if you look into such avenues, let's say you want to learn data protection, then you get into the field. Other things like, let's say, depending on the industry, so some industries they require some cybersecurity policies to be in place. So, like in the financial space, CBK ensures or needs these institutions to do things like periodic security assessments on their systems and so on, or audits, and it's a requirement. You cannot go several years if you haven't done these things, and you have to sorry, you have to submit them to the regulator now, the central bank. So that means that if you have this knowledge of what these policies outline, how to implement them, then you're good to go on GRC. And I'm sure there'll be more policies coming up when AI comes out properly in Kenya, and they need to review the Data Protection Act. If you are on the front lines, you have a good career going for you. So yeah, so it's a good space.
Okay, thank you. We also have Alan. Alan is asking, do you offer mentorship for someone interested in becoming a SOC analyst? And how does someone reach out to you with regards to this?
Usually, I don't think usually have enough time for mentorship. Plus, I think forums like this are the best way to just get onto covering what your questions are. For me, I'll say I can answer any question you have, but I'm not really into the mentorship thing, because what you're really keen on is information, and information is everywhere. You can go online, you can go on Twitter, you can go on LinkedIn. What you're seeking to learn is out there. So I don't hold all the keys to this information. So the best I can offer is I can answer your questions. I can give you can throw your ideas at me or your thoughts, and I can answer where I can, and that's pretty much it. Because I think mentorship adds some sort of burden to someone to guide you. And I think in the information space, if you are unable to stand guided, then it becomes your own problem. For example, if you cannot search up information and use it to your benefit, I think having a mentor will not benefit you if you can't do some things on your own. Yeah, if you want to reach me, Twitter, LinkedIn, those are the primary options. You can reach me. Ama kama uko namba yangu tu unanipigia, but I prefer not to have my number around. Yeah.
Okay, so on the same line, so there's one who is saying, how can they reach out for those who have not subscribed to LinkedIn Premium? So I think maybe
What do you
email.
mean by LinkedIn Premium? You don't need to. You just request. It's blocking you from doing it. I don't know. Maybe talk to Lilian. She'll connect you somehow. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I'll send my account also. If you are interested or you want to reach out to Mike Ikua, yeah, I'll send the links. Okay, so we have how proficient should you be at bash scripting and what is the average of openings in a year for entry level roles, and what steps can you bypass if you can't find a role? I think they're asking if you can also take a path on freelance.
Okay. So proficiency in bash scripting, I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's many areas in cybersecurity where you find you're not even using bash. So I would say it doesn't matter. For me, I would say just know some bash. Just kidogo too. I mean, I don't think there's anyone who will give you a test on how good your bash is unless you're doing a sysadmin position. For security, I haven't seen anyone requiring some strong proficiency in bash scripting. So it's whatever. It's up to you. If you want to get good at bash, it's okay. If you don't care about it, it's fine. You can still succeed without it. As long as the only thing is you have to have some knowledge of what bash is, at least know something. You can write a script of 3 4 5 lines, but you don't have to be a guru. For average openings in a year, so they're usually generally kidogo. Unfortunately, the companies that need cybersecurity services are not so many, especially in our Kenyan market. I think most of them are driven by regulation, not really the care towards cybersecurity. So not many will care. If no one is forcing them to do it, they won't do it. So entry level positions, not many. I think you have to rely on Big Four for this cycle. So guys like your Safaricom, I think every year they do graduate programs. If you go to Big Four, PwC, KPMG, I think they also have entry level like graduate trainee. Same applies to financial institutions simply because of the regulatory aspect. They need people to keep coming in. And then now look for now other companies that you feel are on this cycle. Do I know of a company that has an internship cycle every year? I don't know. For cybersecurity, I think it's tricky. In my years of cybersecurity, I've not seen, other than those big companies, hizi zingine ndogo, it's hard. It's not that straightforward. They'll only maybe open when someone exits or someone gets a promotion, which is not that often. So sio rahisi. So I'd say they're not on the high, to be honest. So you just hope when you're graduating that year kuna some openings. But if you get into big companies, Kina Safaricom, those ones are your best initial bet. What steps can you bypass if you can't find a role? Akuna. There's nothing to bypass. If you can't find a role, you can't find one. It's the reality of our Kenyan market. Now, the other option is now look for international opportunities. That's why now the CTF thing comes in. If you do good CTFs, you do your blogs, guys will notice you. And then go into these forums, because forums are not limited to local Discord. So once you do your few months of CTFs, you'll start finding your way into those forums, interact with people, and Godspeed. At some point, you'll land a role outside of the country. Local sijui, I don't know a bypass. Well, CTF is kind of a bypass, kind of, because it puts you ahead of other people. But other than that, if there's no role, there's no role. What to do? Quite tricky. So you can do now freelance. Now freelance is where I put bug bounty hunter as a career relevance. So that's kind of freelance. Do bug bounty hunter and HackerOne. There's good guys who are doing some good stuff on HackerOne. They're getting paid. So that's also another avenue. Mm. So I hope I've
Okay.
answered that one. It's quite long.
Yeah. Okay, thank you
Mm.
for answering that. We also have an interesting question by Juma. He asks, how was your first time real world pen testing experience like?
It's usually difficult because you're there to find issues. So you have to help them secure their whether it's a network or a web application or a mobile application as in depth as possible. I'm trying to think of a scenario I can give because usually we are not allowed to discuss this kind of issues. So to give my real world experience, I mean, I don't know. To do that, I'll have to tell you about vulnerabilities I found, which I have to think about it quite deeply so that I don't mess up any issues. Because you see, if you are under contract, you're not allowed to disclose anything. So I would say it's not easy because if you go and you find they have done very good security and you're there required to do some proper um, discovery of issues, then it's quite stressful. But all in all, good thing about pen testing is that hautatoka bila kitu. If you do your due diligence vizuri, you'll definitely succeed. So my experience was it was daunting, but you manage. Labda unione kando to get into details. Mm.
Okay, so I think we can take three last questions. I remember there was one for someone requesting if you can check out their blog post and things to improve on. So we'll take the last two from the chat. Can you tell us a bit about career transitioning from non-technical into technical?
So career transitioning from non-technical to technical. So the interesting bit you find is actually people do the inverse because technical gets boring. But so what I would say is, let's say you're moving from a non-technical position. So you have to ask yourself, number one, what skills do I have that are relevant to where I'm going? Because you won't throw away all your non-technical experience. So, for example, you might be good at documentation. You might be good at do you if you are required to do, let's say, presentations. You're very good at them. So you start there. You are like, okay, what skills can I transfer that are not technical that can help me in my technical role? And then from there, now you start doing um, learning about technical skills. So the example you have given is GRC roles into more technical red teaming roles. Have I seen this kind of thing before? So someone is coming from GRC and they want to go into red teaming. So a very interesting pivot. So what I would say, one thing is red teaming itself is not something you can start off immediately. I would say you have to start small, baby steps. So learn technology basically. Start learning technology because that's usually the building block. You can't, what I said earlier, you can't team what you don't know, you can't pen test what you don't know, you can't defend what you don't know. If I give you a Linux server, nikupe tu hivi, nikupe IP, nikwambie ni Linux, and then I keep quiet. So you should at least be able to have some theories in your head based on your knowledge. So if you don't have any knowledge of that Linux system, utaanza wapi? You need to know, okay, so you have Linux. So how do you manage Linux? typically these days things are done remotely. We don't go to data center physically. So how do you do it remotely? Kuna SSH. Kuna SSH, kuna I don't know if is there any other management protocol other than SSH for Linux? I think vitu kama VNC zilishanga. So let's stick to SSH. So something like SSH. So do you understand what SSH inamaanisha? What does it do? Then now from there, you can now think of, okay, so if I'm attacking this thing, I want to access it. Kama niko na SSH peke yake, what can I do? I can guess passwords. So, by default, kuna konga na root account. You can try root. You can look into vulnerabilities on SSH. Kuna zingine that a while back allowed you to discover usernames and such and such. So you can see the theme there is, if you don't have the knowledge of that technology, you're not going to do anything. Utakwama tu. But if you know, okay, if it's defense, kuna firewall, what firewall can you enforce on Linux? What tools can you install for logs so that you can see if someone is brute forcing? I want to know. I want to get an alert immediately so that I can go and block them, for example. So these are the kind of things you go into when you're getting into the technical. So Linux is usually an easy path because I think 70% of our public infrastructure is Linux. Even network devices have some Linux component into them. So you find Linux devices also do SSH. Unapata huko ndani kwa hiyo shell maybe ni kitu kama bash ama shell sh or something. Yeah. So that's my answer. Learn the tech, alafu bake into cybersecurity kidogo kidogo. That's why people usually recommended. Ukianza mapema unasikianga mtu akwambia do network plus, hizi za CompTIA, because they just give you that quick fundamental knowledge.
Okay. Thank you. We have another second last question. They're asking, I think they're asking between Babsuit or Kaido, which is the best tool for proxying traffic.
Okay, I think for that question, I would say it's up to you. The funny thing with tools is it depends on you as a person, because kuna mtu huwa ana hack na browser peke yake. So would we say then browser ndo best? We can't. So usually when it comes to tools, I'll say put your mind into the logic of what does the tools achieve for me. So if you like Babsuit, you're comfortable with it, it does what you need to do, good for you. Kuna mtu alisoma Kaido akaangalia akaona iko sawa. For me, I think those two tools, they have very much similar functionality. Hakuna yenye itafail kwa ingine. If you want to proxy, you can proxy on both. If you want to replay requests, those both can do it. If you want to brute force, both can do it. So they have a lot of similar capabilities. So hapo ni you just test both and see which one you enjoy more. In security, there's a lot of focus on tooling, which I think is not the best way to go in terms of trying to achieve some objectives. Tools ni mingi, so it's up to you. Which one have you mastered and which one do you find easier to work with? Alafu tumia. The end goal is what matters, not the tool.
Okay, thank you. Then the final thing, I think there's someone who sent a link to their post on the document questions. I think it's the final question. I'm not sure if they want it to be public. So they were asking for insights you have, if they can change or improve anything on the blog page. Okay. In the meantime, okay.
Yeah, DM on Twitter, you can chat. But from what I'm seeing, it's decent. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the insight. Also, I don't know if among the people who are in the meeting or in the session, anyone from a non-Swahili speaking country who doesn't understand Swahili around here can, yeah. I think maybe we'll try and put some translations on YouTube. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for giving us the insights and the topics you've covered and also answering the questions we had. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to send the slides, then I can send them on the WhatsApp group. Yeah, also yeah, let me send the links to our platform so that you can check out. Okay, so we'll send the links to the slides, the recording, we'll also share it on the platforms. Yeah, so no worries. We're on Discord, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So we are going to send the links on yeah, let me send the WhatsApp group also, the WhatsApp link. Yes, so thank you so much, Mike Ikua, for the session. Yeah, it has been a very impactful session. Yeah, we've learned a lot, and yes, I don't know if there's anyone who wants to unmute or say something. Any questions? Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing people are saying it was a great session. So thank you so much once again. We usually have these sessions or with experts and professionals every Wednesday, so you can check it out. Yes. Thank you. Let me send the link to the WhatsApp group. In the meantime, if you want to leave, you can do it at your own pleasure.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Cheers.